To you and to yours and everybody around. Welcome to Artifacts today. This is Nigeria Info 95.1. I'm Femi Amale. And of course, I've got the super wing man, the person that needs to be unveiled in a portrait for our skills. Okay, wait, let me just pretend.
About me?
Yes, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you. Yes, I'm talking about you in some sense. But no, let me explain, because if I say they will not use it for news, they will now come and carry me for using it for news. I will not say more than that. Somi is here. Somi, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening from, whether you're in Abuja, whether you're in Niger State, whether you are in the diaspora. It is such a pleasure having you here on Hard Facts. You know that we bring the conversations passionately and in a trustworthy manner, and we're raring to go.
All right, we are. And we're going good and going great as always, because we have Majid Dahiru, Dr. Majid Dahiru with us here today. It's a pleasure to always have you here. He's always ready to be here. So welcome to the show, sir.
Femi D.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see you here.
It is well. And I've continued my trend of greeting everybody good morning, because I'm my adjustment is still not working well. Yeah, when she said good afternoon, I was wondering what's up, what's with the afternoon. I then realized it's afternoon.
It was good to see you.
But welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nigeria is going in many directions simultaneously this week.
Yes.
Whether you want to take it on the backdrop of what the CBN governor said about money, or you want to take it on the backdrop of the protest, or you even want to explore the fact that the president returned last night from France, returned to start of a measure of action as regards what he wants done. And some say with him present, people would feel more confident that it's not as bad as it should look, or it is looking. Maybe things will be better. But there's talks about food, in which he has recently talked about, and what should happen next. Somi?
Yes, as a matter of fact, upon his return, he directed the Special Presidential Committee on Emergency Food Intervention to act immediately and address the rising cost of food items. And then there were a number of interventions that were introduced. As a matter of fact, according to the information that we're seeing, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, while speaking to journalists at State House in Abuja yesterday, gave assurances that, on the matter of food shortage is not as grave, as not necessarily food shortage in the country. And they went ahead to say that government had discovered an alleged sabotage in food pricing by some elements whom he said were hiding behind the naira depreciation in the foreign exchange market to escalate pricing. We will get to the interventions that the president, mentioned, in addressing the rising cost of food items. But just to get your general take, the president is back first and foremost. We had a lot of people hinging the movement, or sort of like the interventions and some sort of hope, that the Nigerians were seeking on the fact that, the president is out. When he comes back, things are going to start happening. And we're seeing things happening. Let's get your thoughts on that, first of all.
Nigeria is not a sole proprietorship. That's the absence of one man who generally halts the business of governance. There's a whole structure of government that actually drives the process of governance. And so even the president is out for about a week or two on a private visit to France, that shouldn't have stopped the structure of government from doing the needful as it concerns the welfare and security of citizens. And so the conversation around whether he's present in the country or out of the country, for me, makes little or no difference, because it is still the same template and operating system that is in place, whether he's here or not. And that is why you will observe in the coming days that despite being in the country, and despite any recommendations that might come up from the emergency meeting he's convened, we may not likely see a difference in the situation, and it might even get worse. And so I think we should begin to talk about these issues within the wider framework of government now thinking outside of the box in order to bring about a lasting solution to the myriad of problems that have become so complex.
Do you think thinking outside the box involves opening up the food reserves, because that's what the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, also did talk
Do
about.
you have a food reserve in this country?
That's why I was asking, because when you think about when someone says food reserves, to the best of my imagination, I always remember bags of rice in pyramid form going all the way up, and I also wonder about when did we reserve it, considering the fact that farmers and the likes of them have not been going to the farms and the likes of that, and you start to wonder what is in the reserve to be shared, how much of what is there to be shared, how long will it be shared for, and who is also going to fill back what was reserved.
Who are you going to share it for? Are you going to share these food reserves to all Nigerians? Because you shouldn't give food assistance to one Nigerian and not give to the other. So are we saying we have reserves somewhere that can take care of our protein needs, our carbohydrate needs, our fat and oil needs, our vegetable needs, courtesy of the government? So you just sit in your house, all of us sitting in our respective houses, and we see trucks of food items being loaded into the compound and flooded into our kitchens. Is that the situation we're expecting to see? Or what exactly does government mean by food reserves being released, and released to who? And that's what I'm saying, we need to sit down now. And this is the time for the government to take a pause on the path that has been treading, at least since May 29, 2023, and have a rethink of its policies and programs and take certain decisions at this point that will be vital to saving the situation at hand before it becomes too late. And so I would think that the government should stop regurgitating some of these cliches as though it's not really feeling the impact of what's happening in the country. Although, of course, those in government may not feel it because they are living at the expense of the public treasury, so they may not feel the impact.
Some of them would say otherwise. Femi Adesina said even when he was a government, there was naira scarcity. He felt it too. He spent less.
Naira scarcity is different from not having money. But he had money in his account, so he could do...
So he could do that.
He could spend money through his cards and through other electronic means. That is different from being broke, not having money, or your salary is being eaten up by hyperinflation.
There's a twist to this. Somi, I don't know if you also got the brief on this. Now, while we're still talking about food reserves, I do hear we now have food terrorists, people who sabotage, yeah?
I was going to go there.
You're going to go there? Oh, let me allow you go all the way through.
It's fine. Go ahead with
I
your
mean,
question.
the way it plays in my head is that it's one thing to have insecurity, the typical insecurity which you've explained, and the blame game now for unknown people seems to be at its prime. And now we have what you call food terrorists. And I know they call it food sabotage, but I just feel as if sometimes let's get to the grandfather of what they will be called eventually, which is food terrorists.
You know,
which is what the government is, who the government is blaming.
Unknown government,
yeah,
to unknown food saboteurs now. A situation where you have government officials coming out to actually, make blanket statements such as this. You begin to wonder, okay, assuming, without necessarily conceding that there is such a group as food terrorists or food saboteurs, is it the responsibility of citizens to apprehend them, prosecute them, and make sure you bust their cycle of food terrorism?
What do you think they're doing?
Outline there, one of the, moves that they're making. It says federal government to move against saboteurs.
To move against.
Federal government. So, yes.
Okay, so when are they going to move? Well, we should have been seeing movement, not expression of intention to move. In any case, I've taken my time to kind of draw out these narratives to make just to make it look like exactly what it is. These are just excuses.
What does a food terrorist do? Forgive me. I
don't know, and I don't understand why somebody will be branded a food terrorist.
Or a food saboteur.
Somebody
it's going to go yes from saboteur and graduate to terrorist.
To the farmers in the hinterlands and bought food items. And it's selling that the price that the person will cover the costs of his investment. And you call the person a food terrorist.
They were also accused of hoarding food items.
It is their personal business. You did not give them money to establish farms or to start the business. It is their investment. It is their money. You can't accuse somebody who is selling or refuses to sell that which he sells before as hoarding. You can't. There's no point. So I don't know what if I decide not to put my shop and sell food items, how is that an offense?
Okay,
it's my loss. After that, I won't get patronage and I'll make money, right?
So
is there any government policy or investment in agriculture that somebody is sabotaging? Maybe are they beneficiaries of any government scheme that seeks to keep price at a certain level and make food items available, and these people are jeopardizing it? Is there such a scheme? To the best of my knowledge, it doesn't exist. There's no food security policy in place in Nigeria.
The federal government
does not exist.
They also aim to work with state governors to boost food security programs in the state. So let's look at that.
And that is why Governor Zulum has probably provided a solution to this problem. A solution that we've been run away from since May 29, 2023.
Yeah.
Governor Zulum, in trying to address the problem of food insecurity in the state, has decided to subsidize petrol in Borno State for farmers, because according to him, petrol is the major energy input in food production in the state, and to bring about food security, there is need to subsidize that energy product that is vital to agricultural production. So he, as a state governor, has decided to subsidize petrol in the state. How he's going to do it, the structure within which he will do it, is something else that maybe he needs to explain for. But that tells you that one person is thinking among the lot. The problem we're facing today is traceable to the removal of petrol subsidy on the first day in office by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. And if you recall our previous conversations around this subject matter, I had consistently warned and predicted doomsday, as we say today, that you do not remove subsidy from a vital, important energy product like petroleum in a country that is largely formal in terms of economic activities and production activities, and where petrol largely drives that informal sector, from your transportation to your generators, your business premises, just name it. Whatever it is that you think about in terms of productivity, including what we do here, is powered by petrol, because the major mode of transportation, for example, is road transportation in petrol-powered engine vehicles.
And maybe that's why the CNG buses conversation without a timeline comes back to bear.
You don't have the infrastructure for CNG.
But that's, in fact, what you do say.
I will tell you something about CNG.
But they still talked about it, that's what we would be doing soon, or using soon.
There is no alternative to petrol in Nigeria. Sorry. In the whole of Abuja, you only have one place where CNG is dispensed. And only dispensed for the people they actually converted their vehicles. And this particular entity has received applications and payment for conversion from Nigerians with a backlog of payment. It's like they have people waiting in line to convert for probably the next 1 year. And that's only the filling point. Only one point in Abuja. That's why you have the refilling point. So everybody in Abuja is supposed to come out to CNG and then go to the Abuja and line up to buy gas when they're out of gas.
Oh, yeah. The
infrastructure for CNG is not there. The government program for CNG has not taken off. It's still largely audio or audiovisual. We see it on TV and we hear it on radio. And we probably read it on newspapers. There is nothing on ground to support that alternative.
Which is one of the reasons I think the National Assembly in recent times has been calling every MDA, every head of parastatal, one way or the other. House of Reps, for example, they've called the CBN, they've called the FIRS. In fact, they were in dialogue with the army chiefs as well recently, and they're asking these leaders of this organization to tell them what is wrong with the work that they've been given to do, that they cannot do it effectively. For example, they're asking CBN and FIRS about why is there no paucity of funds. And I'm wondering, is there an explanation that is going to be different from the one done inside to the National Assembly that will be different from the ones Nigerians already knew?
For God's sake, once you have energy security, we probably have to define energy security once again. Mm-hmm. Energy security is the availability, accessibility, and affordability of energy products and services. And the word security there makes it an integral part of national security of any country. And that is why, because of the affordability component of energy security, it's written boldly, affordability. That is, energy prices in any given entity or a country should not be allowed to go beyond what is called affordability threshold. So in Nigeria, for a country of 30,000 minimum wage, there is an affordability threshold that clearly the price of petroleum has gone beyond. Clearly, it's a no-brainer. However, in other climes, subsidy of energy, particularly those that are mostly in use by citizens of a country. So in some countries, you have electricity as the major source of energy for productivity and for homes. In some countries, it is gas. Some countries, it is fossil fuel, petrol, and other derivatives. In the case of Nigeria, it happens with fossil fuel, petrol, aviation fuel, diesel, and to a lesser extent, kerosene. Of course, gas too. Almost all of them derive from fossil fuels. And so, it was expected that a responsible government will maintain a subsidy program on vital energy products and services. In the case of Nigeria, petrol and diesel. Most of our industries, because we don't have adequate power supply, heavy industries run on diesel, small and medium-scale enterprises run on petrol to power their business premises, productivity. Then for homes, largely both. For large homes, you use diesel-powered generator, generating plants. For smaller homes, you use petrol-powered generating sets. And so, these two products are so essential to our economy that there should have been a robust subsidy regime in place to make sure the prices of these products do not go beyond the affordability threshold in order not to create dislocation in the economy on the extent we've seen today, where you have hyperinflation, because for any marginal cost of production arising from the cost of petrol or diesel will increase the cost of goods and services across board. It's a no-brainer that then you increase petrol price from less than 200 naira to 570 and now 680. You don't need to be an economist to know that if somebody has to buy diesel at 1,300 naira instead of 316 naira it was before to bake bread, the bread cannot be sold for less than 1,000 naira it was before.
And the bread will not even be sweet.
Because again, they have to cut corners here and there. So energy security what we are lacking now.
But sorry, sir. She's wondering if I'm right. Have you bought bread less than 1,000 naira and expect it to be sweet? No.
So energy security. You see, we have to put this whole conversation in context.
Yeah.
The cost of living crisis you see in Nigeria today is a direct result, primarily, of energy insecurity.
But here you have the federal government preferring solutions and interventions, and you can see that clearly they have moved well and way past the point of reconsidering the subsidy, policy and position that they've taken. However, you have them suggesting things like food subsidy. Let's discuss that in terms of where we are, because it's like crying over spilled milk over and over again. As a matter of fact, there was a video that was circulating today where the president during the period of his campaign insisted. As a matter of fact, he did say that people were going to protest, and his words were protest as much as you like, but the subsidy is going. It's gone now. It's been gone for 8 months, and now they're preferring other intervention. Is it possible that some of all these other things that they're saying, we've just discussed a few of them, but let's look at the issue of food subsidy. Do you think it will make any kind of difference?
It can't. Sorry. You must first and foremost restore energy subsidy. You know why? Energy to the economy is what oxygen is to the human being.
But the government will tell you that these are interventions, that they are not solutions, because essentially interventions may not necessarily mean to solve the problem on ground.
We don't need interventions.
It's just to hold body till you move forward.
We don't need interventions. We need solutions. And let me also say this clearly. In addition to energy security, you also have what is called food security, and it has the same definition: affordability, availability, and accessibility of food. That is why in the rest of the world, the rest of the prosperous world, food is heavily subsidized. Side-by-side energy, because both of them are mutually inclusive. They're not mutually exclusive.
So what if, thinking about it, after the government did take away subsidy, at least under the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it started to talk about, there are money showing up that were not there that could be used. Let's say we want to go with the plan, which is the most popular part of the plan right now, which is by force, we want to subsidize food. Mm-hmm. That is what we are paying attention to. No matter how much you protest about oil subsidy, we are not looking that way. We want to subsidize food. How does it make sense to subsidize food for a country?
That's what I said.
For
it will cost the government more than the entire revenues of this country to subsidize food alone without subsidizing energy. You know why? the rising cost of energy will continuously increase the cost of food subsidy. Assuming, for instance, they're going to be able to subsidize food absolutely, in absolute terms, to the point where it gets everybody. So the first thing you need to do is to build the foundation of an economy, including the agricultural economy, which is energy. I don't know why we don't seem to pay attention to this. Energy subsidy is a global best practice to set a solid foundation for an economy. Because without energy subsidy, or without what you call energy security, you can't have productivity. That is the problem with Nigeria. I'll give you an example.
We need to go on the break. I promise to let you share that example now after the break. Okay, in 30 seconds, we'll go on the break, and that will take us for, let's say, maybe 2 minutes. Then we'll be back to talk more with Dr. Majid Dahiru on the Roundtable. Stay with us.
This is Hard Facts.
Audio Jungle.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I do it every morning on Morning Crossfire from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Nigeria Info 95.1, and I'm Femi D. Amede. Join the biggest conversation around national politics every day in a way that is trustworthy, full of passion, and yes, covers the biggest politics and the stories that matter to you. See, you have all the reasons to find out what's going on in Nigeria and be engaged differently. Let's talk. That's the way to go, even this morning.
Hi everyone, my name is Swat. That's the name my father gave me, but you can always call me Her Vocal Majesty. I'm the host of The Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info. It takes place every weekday, noon to 3 p.m., where we get to have all the lovely contemporary conversations. If your days are normally long and gloomy, well, not anymore, because I'm here to make it all bright and sunny for you. So join me. It's an invitation. You don't want to miss out.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Nwachukwu. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Facts Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
And I can't do it. They've disgraced me several times on this show from Monday till now. So me, I'm coming to your show. You come and see what I'll do on your show. By the way, Somi is starting out our show next week, in case you're wondering. Yes, she'll be on from 10 to about 1 a.m. Small politics, small family, or family politics, or political family. Somewhere inside there would do fine. I'm saying the truth now. Somewhere in there, you'll find yourself. She has a splendid plan for the evening show. So we're holding forth to the end of this week. To Kim is back. I think Kim is back next week. He told her we'll do some part of it next week. I'll do some part of it also next week. But whatever the plan is, you can count on us for a passionate conversation that is trustworthy. Dr. Majid is leading the pack today. He's leading us through understanding the many ways in which the politics of our land continues to transform, and how we should also prepare for it and understand it when we can. All right, welcome back from the break, Sam.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, you are going to share an example around energy sector, which is very important. That no matter what else you subsidize, if you ignore the energy sector, you're still back to your day one trouble.
You need to subsidize energy. It's called energy security. It's an investment in productive economy. Because they're going to reap the benefits by way of employment, low inflation rates, and general productivity enough, for example, to have an export competitive economy. Now, let me give you a direct example of what I've been trying to say. In year 2022, for instance, China, as a country, is set up a subsidized fossil fuel energy and renewables for industrial and manufacturing purposes to the tune of about 130 billion US dollars. 130 billion US dollars. Now, what is the result of that enormous investment in energy security for the purpose of productivity? I'll tell you one of it. Apart from the large export volume out of China to the rest of the world, let me use Nigeria as an example, a country that struggled for the most part of 2023 with energy insecurity. So by the third quarter, according to NBS report, by the third quarter of 2023, that is in September, China recorded against Nigeria a 7.5 trillion naira trade deficit. You know why? Because China had a total export into Nigeria, or imports from China into Nigeria, of about 8 trillion naira, while Nigeria was only able to export goods and products, mostly natural resources, mostly crude oil, the usual things, not manufactured goods, into China that amounted in excess of 860 billion naira. Look at the disparity. Because if you manufacture a shoe in China and ship it through their port of Guangzhou to Lagos port and ferry it all the way to either their market in Aba to sell, the one that is produced in Aba will not beat it in terms of price competitiveness. The one from China will be cheaper than the one in Aba.
So all that attempt is for nothing, literally.
It's for nothing.
Commercially.
And that is why today you're talking about forex liquidity crunch, right, in Nigeria. Our CBN governor is lamenting that in the last 10 years we've spent $40 billion on some other not so essential issues like education and probably healthcare and all of that. Fine. It looks very big. It's like, oh, how did we spend ourselves broke? It is because we don't have any export competitiveness within the global sphere today. So China, that I was talked about, that has, among many other incentives for production, many others, a robust energy policy, energy security policy. As we speak, is sitting on top of the largest dollar reserves in the world at $3.2 trillion.
And dollar is not even their spending currency.
As a matter of fact, they have more dollars in their reserve than the United States of America.
I do hear that as well.
Yes. In fact, America does not have dollars. America is not the first 10. It's not among the first 10 largest dollar reserve countries. Countries like Brazil, Japan, South Korea are ahead of the United States of America because of the same policies. So energy security is an investment in economic productivity. When the president removed subsidy on petroleum products, it was an abdication of a key responsibility of government. Without energy security, one, you don't have productivity, you don't have a developing economy, your economy will crumble, but most importantly, and something that should be avoided at all times, it will set in social unrest because people will be hungry. That is why energy security is an integral part of national security. In fact, there is also such a thing called energy diplomacy. That is, if you don't have energy sources in your country, like Nigeria now, we have crude oil. We are rich in hydrocarbons, so we can easily convert our hydrocarbon potentials into fossil fuels and other derivatives to power our industries. So a country like Japan, for example, do not have this advantage. So they have to leverage on energy diplomacy to augment. That is, they look for cheaper sources of energy and use diplomatic channels to secure accessible and affordable sources of energy for their home country.
So it's like trade by barter without money, essentially. Just the modern trade by barter. You just don't use money. You just use resources. It underscores
the importance of energy security.
Let's for a moment, because I know we're pressed for time and I know people really want to talk to you as well. So me seeing messages already coming in. Let's talk about insecurity for a moment. 150 in was it in Kogi State? Yes. I do see a story about Kogi State now. There was a story about over 150 suspected armed men attacked Agojeju, I hope this comes out right, in Omala local government area of Kogi State, killing 4 persons. The lawmaker representing Omala State's constituency in Kogi State, Honorable Umar Yaya, disclosed this on Wednesday in Lokoja after submitting a report on the attack to Kogi State Governor Alhaji Usman Ahmed Ododo. Yaya, who condemned the incident, described the recent attack in his constituency as one too many. In the meantime, here in Abuja, the operatives of the Nigerian Police Force, attached with the Department of Force Intelligence Tactical Team, have gone down into a notorious kidnapper terrorizing the outskirts of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The bandit, with the name Issa Dede, was neutralized during a gun duel with security personnel who had combed the hideouts of some kidnapping syndicate who lives unbearable, who made lives unbearable for residents along the suburbs. Also in Ondo State, I do hear there's been Amotekuna. Did discover a group of men who were sitting by near a truck, and they said, no, we are just collecting breeze. And eventually when they check, they found cutlass, they found all kinds of weapons. Then they claimed they were hunters, but eventually they were arrested. They were arrested in large numbers, over 100. The issue of insecurity is no longer looking like it has, when you say you call security, the army chiefs now, for example, in my head, I'm thinking about when the army chiefs make an attempt to respond to an incident like Plateau State, they respond in the most holistic way, which is to say, this is a national plan, and this national plan looks like it can cater for Plateau situation. And then you hear of Ondo State, you hear of Kogi State, you hear of abductions of people with passenger buses as well in Nigeria. And those cases seems to not to be national in nature. They seem to be peculiar with those areas, but then the national response doesn't seem to match the situational response that you have. And people keep saying, sack the army chiefs, call for their heads, let them come and explain. National Assembly, they were there today to explain, but they explain what they are doing generally, but they can never, or they have not been able to explain situational responses, which is what we are dealing with now, where you have too many situations and the general answer is coming from the top and doesn't match the situation on ground. How do we do it? Do you think our national response to our insecurity is just so big that it cannot respond to the situational issues that we do have now?
What we have at hand in Nigeria is a situation where leadership failure has actually...
I hope that's not somebody. Send me money if it's money that you're sending.
Leadership failure has given rise to the collapse of governance and government structures across the entire length and breadth of this country. And this is a worrying sign of an entity that is teetering on the edge of state failure. And we must be very careful because Nigeria seems to right now being unraveled from within and from every part of the country. And the state apparatus appear unable to contain these security challenges that are heightening by the day. It is multifaceted, it is complex, it is complicated, and the state appears weak. And so when we say Nigeria is expressing...
Well, the states are weak. They don't appear weak, have we?
The state, not state government, state, what you call the state, which is both the federal, the state, and then the local government. The institutions of the state, your judiciary, your army, your police, everything about the state that is supposed to enforce law and order, that's supposed to provide security for you and our citizens, and provide welfare for us, appears to be failing in all of this regard. That's why some of us have said Nigeria is exhibiting...
So me say something.
No.
Nigeria is exhibiting...
Somi is doing that woman body that is...
Mild symptoms. Let me still call it mild because it can still be salvaged. Mild symptoms of state failure at this point. And so to solve this problem is to take a holistic look at how do we reinvent the Nigerian state? Because don't forget that as citizens, when we surrender our sovereignty to the state, it is in exchange for protection by way of security and provision by way of welfare. That is the reason why we are Nigerian citizens. That's why we are law-abiding. That's why we are paying taxes to the state. That's why we are responsible citizens. It's in exchange for this. But when the state is unable to meet up its own end of this social contract, where we have surrendered our sovereignty in exchange for welfare security, and the state is unable to provide it, it means the state is failing. So Nigeria is tending towards a failed state. We are saying this because the political leaders have the responsibility to arrest the situation, not necessarily from the citizens' perspective, because we have surrendered. I don't have the means to enforce my order. My only responsibility is to be law-abiding. So I'm not a bandit, I'm not a criminal, I don't have arms in my possession, I don't have anything at all that makes me an outlaw. That is the extent of my responsibility to the state. Now, but the state has a bigger responsibility because we've surrendered our sovereignty to them, to make sure that I'm not hunted down by bandits or terrorists, and to make sure that I have something to eat and a shelter over or a roof over my head. But when the government is failing in this regard and is unable to meet up with its core responsibility of securing its own territory, you begin to hear ungoverned spaces in Nigeria, you begin to hear ungoverned lives in Nigeria, then we must all be worried. And so we expect that the political leadership would have been responding to this challenge in a way that shows that they understand the urgency of the times and how to now reinvent and bring up ideas and be seen to be doing that, which is going to reinvent the state, make it stronger, and to be able to contain all of these challenges.
Well, I know Somi wants to jump in on this, but I still want to go back to that situation. What was the phrase I used to
Yes, so the national response vis-a-vis...
down to that situation,
Yes.
situations
if
that we
national
do see.
response is appropriate.
Now,
You have a national security, what they call national security architecture.
okay, but
So-
I agree with you
So
on that.
it is ineffective, clearly. And I'm saying that is supposed to tie local responses to state responses, mechanisms, and to the one for the
So
federal government.
here's where the challenge comes in for me, and I don't know if anybody else sees it this way. You have local responses that are turning up effective on some occasions. For example, in Ondo State, in Ekiti State, where you have the so-called, everybody made fun of their uniform when they started off and say, leopard, anybody that wears leopard. Because way back then, they used to say, akpoche, if you're wearing those type of outfits, with the whole thing. But now people were making fun of the fact that, you're wearing leopard skin, you're an amotekun in Abuja, and all kinds of jokes. But they appear to be either feared, dreaded. That's besides the people that they capture as possibly being armed. And you find that local response almost totally unconnected with a government that runs the day by day, and they're cleverly effective. And then you wonder, the one that there's a lot of money, there's a lot of planning on paper, there's a lot of titles going on, and there are people designated to those states, like the army in Plateau State, and the likes of that. You wonder why it is not so responsive. Is it that we have too many, should I say, catalog of plans before and less action, or we just have too many people involved in decision making that by the time they make decision, mobilize, the guys have gone?
Please, what is the quality of those that have been appointed, for example, under this regime, to head security services from the ministerial level to the heads of the various branches of our armed forces and paramilitary?
If you mean the
police?
NSA, for example, is trained in security, isn't he? I mean, you worked at the FCC at some point in time.
Far,
He's taking courses.
in 7 months, it's not enough for the president to appraise his team and say, okay, in 7 months, I've not seen any new ideas from those of you that have appointed, and the situation has gotten out of hand to the point where you now have protests across the country over cost of living on one hand and insecurity.
I think you just hit the nail on the head with that one, because we've gone from trying to sound all proper and everything about it. I almost lost it when you said the state apparatus and all appear weakened. No, it's I believe even to whatever extent that they are equipped, to what extent that they are informed, there are things that can be done that will send some measure of fear into these miscreants and these people who are, perpetrating all of this evil across the country. So it's not a case of weakness. I keep using this term. It is the will to stand up and say, look, if as a state governor, you're the chief security officer of your state. You don't need to, whether over security or whether over food and hunger and all of that, you don't need to get up and be saying, oh, I'm going to go and meet with the president, as was the case with the Kano State governor. What are the measures that you have in place within your state? If it's a security, take it up. Do something. If replicate what Amoteku is doing, if they are seen to be effective in some areas, replicate it and then work with it. So at the end of the day, what you see across the country is failure of leaders, whether it translates to failure of the state or not, it's a different matter, but failure of leaders to be able to, be accountable to the people who they are leading. It's as simple as that.
I think I actually backgrounded this conversation with the failure of the political leadership.
Fantastic.
It stems from that. These crashes are rising from that leadership failure by the political leadership of this country. So, because the structures are in place. When I say the state is weak or is weakened, the state is not weak because it's the state. No. Those that are supposed to control the state and utilize the apparatus of state to provide us welfare and security have abdicated responsibilities. They have become corrupt. Ineptitude has taken over the entire leadership space without exaggeration. We have seen that even the leadership recruitment process through our political parties has thrown up less than desirable levels of leadership. And so they have in turn weakened the state because of their leadership incompetence. Otherwise, solutions to these problems are there. In fact, if you ask me, it is the failure of leadership in the first instance that created these levels of insecurity.
Dr. Dayuru, okay, we're going to start taking the calls in a short while. I will tell you what my brain tells me about a pattern, and there's a pattern. There are states in this federation that you barely hear any news about them along the lines of insecurity without even looking at the map. I have to open up the Nigerian map, by the way, I have to check this so that I don't start. Because sometimes I almost feel as if these states are so quiet that you almost don't know they are there. Jigawa State is next to Kano, along the lines with another state, but you will not hear that there was knockout thrown. Kebbi State, for example, I don't know much about the state. I think I only get to see the governor maybe when he visits Abuja to see the president. No knockout or banger thrown to pursue one kid from one neighbor to the other, if that would even be termed as insecurity. I'm looking at the map of Nigeria, and I'm also, think about it. Where else? Please, Somi, help me if my eyes are playing tricks on me. Gombe State. Almost nothing about that state as well. Is it a coincidence, or we are just so dull to hearing news about them, or it is just for a fact that these states are clever in either dealing with their insecurity, or their insecurity is not making the news, or their life is just so very quiet that there's nothing about, I almost said nothing to kidnap, but there's nothing to go into those spaces. I know you want to answer this, but let's take some calls, okay? Because I know people are pressing in to get their views in. The lines are open, 08095974869. You can also join in on WhatsApp on 08099933031, okay? Let's take some of your calls before we get back to the question on the very silent state.
Good evening. Hello, good evening. Welcome.
Yes, my name is Ahmed Sunday. I'm calling from Central area.
Good to have you here, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I want to send my condolences concerning the night sister. It's the first time I'm calling since the incident. And I pray that God will console the Nigerian people in Jesus' name. One thing I want to say concerning the discussion on ground. In fact, I so much love the way your guest is analyzing things anytime it comes to the station. And I hope if our government is hearing what he's saying. One thing I want to say is that the question I would like to ask, you see that our leaders don't know what to do if they are confused, or can I say, like if I use this word, I don't know how it would look like. I think that they are wicked. Because looking at the analysis that the guest is given concerning the energy security, our president to announce on his first day of inauguration that subsidy is gone. What about him announcing that fuel importation is gone and put our refinery in order? is that not going to go much way to solve this situation we find ourselves?
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank
another thing I
you.
would like to say
Oh,
is
very quickly, please.
this one.
Very quickly, please.
Hello?
Yes, very quickly, please.
Yes, I'm running up now. The one thing I want to say now is that our elder statements, are they looking at the situation on ground in this country, or they are still keeping quiet for this thing to continue going more work and more work before they will intervene?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Before you say the one that we're not supposed to take. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Femi.
Welcome.
Good.
Yes, welcome, sir. Quickly, go on.
Thank you. I greet you, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome, sir.
We greet you too.
Let me say on for anybody saying that somebody is sabotaging this food scarcity. I think that's not true. That's not true. We know what is going. The farmers cannot go to farm because of insecurity. Where can we get the food? Where can we get it? There's no way we can get the food. So somebody is saying somebody is it's a lie. Mr. President is back. Let's do something on our security. Insecurity is too much. Let's do something about it first of all. Let's secure our place, our land, and our farm. First of all, and the subsidy gone, let the subsidy be bring back. Let the fuel prices, fuel price return back to as before. This will be okay. That's my submission. Thank you.
All right, thank you as well. Reading some messages. This one coming from Head Boy from Masca says, good afternoon, Femi and Auntie Somi and Dr. Majid. I'm not surprised of hearing of another name like food bandits. It's only in the opposite government that one hears names like inconclusive, national grid epilepsy, naira color or redesign, budget padding, trader money, feeding school children during lockdown. I can go on and on. Let Mr. President know the masses are chonko. Yaya, the head boy from Masca, did write that in.
Gabriel from FAB Global is simply tired of talking every day on issues without adequate action, and he says the government should do the needful as quickly as possible so as not to allow the people who hit the streets.
Gideon C. from Gwagwalada says, it's unfortunate that the government started a blame game system. That is how Buhari wasted our 8 years. The truth is our leaders lack ideas. All right, more messages. Leo Covenant says, we don't need interventions, we need solutions. A good quote from Mr. Dr. Majid. Truthfully, we don't need any intervention from the government. The federal government should kindly reduce the prices of fuel, gas, kerosene. A government that has its citizens at heart would have retained subsidy. Leo Covenant added written in.
All right, we have this message here. Bookman from Airport Road. You're greeting everyone in the studio, and you said you sent a message last week and that you are greeting Dr. Majid. You go ahead to call him Prophet Dr. Majid. You say he's supposed to be a prophet and that he's telling the gospel truth. The problem we have in this country, there's nothing more to say about it other than what Dr. Majid has said. You're saying it's, according to you, you say it's an us versus them mentality, and it is killing the country and bleeding Nigeria. You go ahead to say the way we practice the religion, God will help us in this country. Thank you so much, Dr. Majid. One day you are hoping he will be a solution to the country and a solution provider by the grace of God. Thank you, Bookman from Airport Road.
Dr. Majid, let's come to you. I mean, we're building up into another point. I was talking about the silent states. I don't know why phrases that don't exist are just coming to my silent states, the ones I mentioned. And by the way, my eye also spotted Kwara some minutes ago as well. And you're wondering what is going on in these states. Are they clever? Is there, or they're just quiet? You know, people say that if you're quiet and you hide yourself away, possibly the trouble would avoid you.
There's no state in Nigeria that does not have one form of insecurity or the other. It's just that the ones the media will report are those that are very outlandish in nature. I mean, when you have people being killed in numbers as high as 100 plus. But there's no state I can assure you. As far as Kebbi you mentioned is one of the worst hit states by banditry and kidnapping. Along the Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto axis. Sokoto too is seriously hit by these menace. Of course, Zamfara is a test case. is a playground for terrorists. The same with Kaduna, of course. And so there is really no part of Nigeria that is, but we have some states that are not as, hit as others. Not because the governors are doing anything outstanding or extraordinary, but it's just because somehow they don't fall into the pathway of, the epicenter of terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. Even in Lagos, as we speak, kidnapping is on the rise in Lagos. You're wondering. So it's just that sometimes these things are not reported as much as some others are reported. In some of these states, for example, in Jigawa, you have former hada clashes, very prevalent in that state. The security challenges in that state.
In Jigawa State.
Yes. But the secret to what you just said, you just named it. You termed it farmer herders crisis, which traditionally I'm sure has been there for forever. It's different from when unknown people kidnap unknown people.
That's why I didn't use former herders clashes to play to. In Jigawa, it is former herders clashes. It is real farmers and real herders clashing over, or having a clash over the struggle for land resources to graze and to cultivate crops. It's quite certain. But in Plateau, in Benue, and some other places across the Middle Belt, you cannot call that a former herders clash. It's pure terrorism. When a group of people enter a community with sophisticated weapons and sack the entire community, take over their lands, and convert them to large grazing routes, you can't call that former herders clashes because two people are in clashing. And so, Nigeria has a security emergency on its hands. And the leadership appears clueless. They don't seem to understand what needs to be done. And you see, when we talk about governors, it's a very interesting thing. Yes, governors have a big role to play in security. You often hear kinetic and non-kinetic approach to security. That terminology became very, very popular during the Buhari years in office. Even though it was, in my opinion, it was invented to deflect from the real failure of state to contain insecurity by appealing to, certain base sentiments of the assailant under the so-called non-kinetic approach to security. But you see, the most comprehensive non-kinetic approach to security is good governance in every form.
Are they still transforming repentant terrorists? Are they still releasing them to the society?
Well,
does that make sense to anybody?
On the issue of repentant terrorists,
because I think that would be under the non-kinetic something.
Exactly. On the issue of terrorists, what they call repentant terrorists, it is mostly applied to Boko Haram insurgents. I've been to Malam City, the camp where they are being rehabilitated. I visited there once. And what I saw there is not so different from what I've always known about the insurgent group. And my opinion is yes, why the government has at least acknowledged the ideological component of this crisis, and there is an attempt to reverse some of these poisonous doctrines that gave rise to this insurgency by deradicalizing those that were captured or those who surrendered during the war on terror, particularly in the Northeast. My opinion has always been that you cannot completely de-radicalize a radicalized individual that became so radicalized to the point of picking up arms against the state. It's always difficult. And so what the government should focus on doing in that regard is going to talk about good governance. If you want to talk about good governance, the Constitution of Nigeria envisages a Nigeria that is democratic, constitutional, and plural, as well as what do you call it now? As well as that is non-religious in nature.
Secular.
Nigeria was envisaged. It was conceptualized as a constitutional, democratic, plural, and secular state. That secularism must be restored across the country. The truth is, what needs to be radicalized is the entire space. It's like the entire society that needs to be radicalized because these people picked up this tendency from the society.
Okay.
So when you bring them back to the society and the society remains the way it is, there's a high chance that they'll simply go back to their old ways. So it makes it counterproductive.
Somebody said to me that even all of us need to be deradicalized.
In one way or the other. So we need to restore Nigeria back as a secular state. And I make this point without fear of contradiction. Secularism does not mean anti-religion. Secularism in a plural state simply means equality of all religious groupings before the state, where no one is elevated over and above or the other, and where religion is personal, with the rights of religious freedoms respected in absolute terms by the constituting authority.
Okay. Well, let's go.
So to give effect to this, we need to dismantle religious laws from states that have such laws. There is no state in Nigeria that should be a Muslim or Islamic state. In the same way that there should be no state in Nigeria that should be a Christian state.
Interesting. Yes, that's interesting because some governors try to push that narrative.
And build churches and build centers with state funds. It is illegal. It's against the constitution. The same way you have Sharia in some states with Hizbah. All of this must be dismantled.
Let's go on the break and then we'll talk about how some Nigerians feel like they are victims that only go home. We all need deradicalization. Stay with us right here on Nigeria Info. We'll be back after now.
This is Nigeria Info.